Okay, let's get the program going. Let's see how everything looks. Streaming, everybody there? How's it going? Hopefully we'll start to populate here soon. Get things going, get the room going. Okay, wait for people to join in. Okay, just start this thing slowly. Just give it a few more moments. There goes Facebook. Okay, how's it going? Mookie Mookie? Welcome, guys. Give it a few more moments before we kind of get started. Hey, look at that, and creature sculpting and exploration with me, so. How's it going, James? Thanks for joining. All right, Gerald, Zorro. Some of you guys' names are kind of difficult to pronounce, so excuse me if I get them goofed up. All right, 101. So let's go ahead and get this thing started. Welcome to episode 3, guys, of my exploration of characters. My website is going to be www.bbriley.com. I also have an ArtStation. You can follow me on artstation.com/spark in case if anybody's interested. I do need to kind of update a few of these things. I had a lot of NDA stuff I still am not able to show. I am trying to keep up a little bit more on my Instagram, although I need to update. Things have been kind of busy, but you can follow me on Instagram.com/bbriley_art. And also I am with a group of guys, Grim, and you could find us at Instagram.com/wearegrim. This is where we're going to be showcasing a lot of our kits and other things. I am with James Kane and Martin Verhoeven. Phenomenal artists, so you might want to kind of check them out as well. We need to populate this as well. So, thank you, Salvador. Mookie. I'm going to be starting to stream, I think, a little bit more often. I'm going to try to do this every single kind of week to kind of, you know, get myself a little bit, kind of create and hopefully get something kind of good going on, but yeah, I'll be having you know, a stream as much as possible. So I think I might kind of keep it to this Friday during this time, kind of get some people during lunch from it. So, but yeah, you can find me on this. This is my older website, kind of like more of my pieces that I'm kind of known by. I also have a shop in case you guys are interested of kits that I've done through Ownage. And Grim is also going to be having kits available that you can actually find. We will be launching with wearegrim.com pretty soon, where you can actually see some of the different pieces that we've done. I showed a couple of them from different pieces, but the once we kind of launch, I'll showcase those a little bit more. But you can find these right now through. I only have one left of my Cerebrum piece, so any of those interested to kind of grab that. That's the last piece I have, and I will be seeing about updating that pretty much soon. And again, on my ArtStation, you can follow, kind of gives some of the breakdown of the different games I've worked on throughout the years. I have about 29 titles that I've had the opportunity to work on, so you can kind of check those out. And then this is more of where I'm just going to be kind of doing some funky stuff, like updating my ZBrush Summit pieces that I did, and so on. And Grim, we have, there's some of the kits. There's like a little video that you guys can kind of watch. Play that real quickly of what we've done. This is what we were having for Monsterpalooza last year. Some of the different kits that we were planning to have. Sorry, I can't fast forward it. So this was from Vimal Kirketa. He'll probably be joining us. He's not part of Grim at the moment, but hopefully we can get him in. This was his Jon Snow. This is a kit that I'm hoping to bring. This is my Robo Hobo. Just some of the different works that we actually have. This was James Kane's Eldorado guy. And then this is Ozero from Martin Verhoeven, the kits that we're trying to bring. So this is where we have a lot more kits they're kind of doing, but this is just a quick little video that Martin put together to kind of show for Grim. So that's my little sales pitch, what's going on. So, all right, let's get started to going to today's episode. I've been kind of showing you guys how to work off of like a traditional visual effects character. Let me bring that over. Kind of like saying how within traditional visual effects the sculptors actually work off of a face of an actor and everything. So I wanted to kind of show how going from a scan data head, instead of just taking it directly, just, you know, hey, I'm gonna make the nose bigger and call it done, kind of use some of the forms that you find within to create creatures, ideas, and everything else like that. It's sort of like they've done. A lot of people ask, where do you kind of get the ideas to come from? Well, I am inspired by other artists as well, but a lot of what inspiration comes from is some of the crazy crap that you can actually find in nature. I mean, if you start looking up weird creatures, microscopic creatures, everything like that, there's tons of horrors and nightmares you can find some ideas from. And undersea creatures and stuff. So just take a look at, and try to get up a good library, and just kind of keep just pumping into your library. Have an inspiration folder of the artists that kind of inspire you, but also take a look at nature and everything else that they're inspired from as well. So, let me look at this. It's a Chinese monkey. I can't, snub nose, I think, monkey. But if you look, it kind of almost looks like his cavity of his nose is gone. Kind of makes him look odd from a different one. Whereas you go from, different monkey that just kind of looks like he just kind of had like a mushroom blow up in his face, to, or is that other monkey? Yeah, to just a full on flat. It looks like he's been burned by the sun. So you can look at nature, and there's a lot of odd ideas to kind of give you different noses, eyes, shapes of the face, and everything that you can pull into your creatures. So, okay, so let's go ahead and get going on today's face. Today, I'm gonna go back to this original head that I started from episode 1, where I was pretty much, I just took the scan data to catch up those who haven't seen it. Head. This is from 1024 Scanned. And what I did is I basically just split the face and mirrored it and welded it, and then just kind of recreated divisions, so I can go up and down into the character, and a couple different versions. So you can sometimes, when you do those, you can kind of get some funky shapes pretty quickly and kind of give you an idea of the head. This was the first head that I created from that, and somebody had asked me, how do you kind of like, is there only one idea you get from the head, or whatever. So I'm going to kind of take the same thing I did from episode 1, but I'm going to go in a different direction to kind of show just that to take a look at a different thought process on something you've already kind of done, because sometimes you have to kind of, this might not be successful. You got to take the actor's head and you kind of work it again. So I'm gonna go back to this head that I actually kind of found, and I'm gonna kind of try to create another creature from it, even though I created one already. So I'm gonna just make a duplicate just so I have this guy to start from, and I'm going to go down to the lower levels first. And pretty much, guys, you can turn on dynamic poses. Usually if I'm going to go for this, I'm going to probably knock down my angle of view just down a little bit because I don't want it too in my face. And sometimes, you know, you can get some kind of different perspectives. But your call, however you want to kind of do it. I do have local and local symmetry on, so wherever I touch, I actually go to that axis. I don't use a lot of variations of brushes. I kind of, actually, let me go ahead and turn down some of my stuff, guys, so we don't have the sound. Sorry about that. I don't use a lot of brushes. I pretty much just have one, and I have these on my hotkeys, so you can actually just go ahead and just make it easy to use. The less you have to think about where you're putting your hand on the keyboard, the faster you'll be. So 1 is my standard, 2 is my move brush, 3 is actually my flatten, 4 is pinch, 5 is my clay, 6 is in flat, 7 is my damn standard, and hold on a second, guys. Can you guys hear me? Everything okay? Okay, good. I switched mics, so I was just double checking. So, so having those just basic brushes, I gotta try to keep everything kind of basic, so it's just off of your sculpting, off of just the thought process of your character and stuff. So it's, you know, you can toss. ZBrush is a powerful program, most powerful program I've ever used. So there's a lot of things you can kind of go down into different directions that can kind of lead you into the abyss. You know what I mean? So you got to be kind of careful. Good afternoon, Doug. Yeah, I actually switched to a different camera, so I'm sorry. I mean, a microphone. I actually have a really nice microphone that I guess was giving me feedback, so I apologize for that noise. I just switched over to my camera microphone, and it seems to be doing a lot better, which is great because it cost me a lot less than this nice microphone that I'm not using. So, so I'm glad I got that figured out. I'm learning this streaming stuff, guys, so thank you for bearing with me. So, the main thing when you're looking at a character is you pretty much have four senses of a human, that kind of for our facial details. You have, you know, that the sound, the sight, the smell, and the taste. And taking away of any of those senses kind of sits there and brings it into the oddity, into our odd creatures and stuff like that. So today I think we're going to take away 2 of those senses. On this last one, I pretty much just had all of them. So to vary up from this one, I'm going to remove some things to actually go into a different direction pretty quickly. So I think on this one, I'm just going to go ahead and just start to wipe out certain things that, you know, I don't want. So I'm gonna get rid of this eye, or the eyes of the sections and stuff like that. So already that feels different, and then I'm just gonna start pushing and pulling, just like I've done with other ones. I'm gonna go down again pretty low so I can actually move, and I'm just gonna find these shapes and stuff. I'm gonna properly bring in. I'm gonna probably keep the nose. I do like the nose. But if I'm going to be playing with these shapes and stuff like that, I'm going to kind of create a little area for this. And then, you know, I could still play with the same shapes. Like, let's say if I wanted to kind of have this character still kind of have that bulbous head that we played with on the first one, but I want to sit there and change that look up. This is already looking quickly different than what I had previously. So the next thing I want to kind of probably take a look at, because I said I want to reduce 2. Well, if I could wipe out the mouth, you know, and make some kind of weird little thing. And again, make sweeping hits, guys. Just check it out. I think I like the look of just where I took out these eyes. Now I can actually sit there and now bring your attention more focused to this little thing. It's almost kind of like again, when you're creating creatures, or at least how I personally like to do it, I like to look for leading your eye into different directions and stuff like that. I don't like how the nose is so done, so I'm gonna whip this up, keep this kind of like this look up, going in. How's it going, guys? Hey, Avi, Joan. I definitely like, I mean, ZBrush is just getting better and better, guys. I mean, they've been really adding a lot of different things to it, so it's kind of like, you know, with the Sculptors Pro and a couple other different things, they just keep adding to it. It makes our life as artists a lot easier to deal with. So, but, you know, I mean, there's just so many great things that it's like you can always find something within ZBrush to go back to. Because honestly, you kind of get into, when you're trying to create, you try to find a nice comfort zone of what makes you feel good, what you like to use. There's going to be certain brushes that you vary towards over top of, you know, something else. And even though they might kind of improve it, you still might have a use for that older brush or style or thing that you've kind of used. So it doesn't mean just because they updated it that you have to kind of switch around, but I would take a, you know, always take a look as an artist to try to sit there and find different things that you actually like to work on, you know, new styles or whatever, new ways to go about thinking, I guess, is the biggest thing to kind of see what I like and what I don't like. I'm going to go ahead and I think I'm going to take out these here. So I'm going to just mask out, not take them out, I'm going to reduce them. So, and the other one I had, like I said, the 4 senses. I think with this one, if I want to kind of sit there and emphasize less of the ears to be seen, so I'm just going to go ahead and mask, and I'm going to hold down my control and invert that mask, and I'm just going to bring those in. I'm going to kind of take them out, use my N flat to kind of reduce and pull in, almost flatten them down. Still have some of that shape, I think, but kind of definitely get them out from the silhouette hit of the head. So almost kind of like they're smaller. Yeah, smaller, reduced, and I'm kind of gonna bring up them as a cavity. So again, I could clean this up later. Right now I'm just kind of testing out. Maybe have just a little bit of that top. Okay. And then once I do that, that's going to kind of change that shape. I'm going to echo this. So, thank you, VJ. I appreciate it. Yes, nice. Thank you, Aubrey. Appreciate it. Do you recommend pen tab or mouse? Should you be fine? Shuban, painting with, you know, using your mouse to work in ZBrush is like painting with a brick. It's totally, you know, not a fun process. I highly suggest you try to sit there and use your pen on the tablet. I actually have a Cintiq, a Wacom Cintiq 21UX. It's kind of an older one, but I have a tendency to really kind of like it. There are newer ones you could take a look into, but you know, or you could just go for the Wacom or Bamboo or whatever you kind of need, but do not be painting with a mouse or whatever. It's very slow, and it's gonna limit you pretty much greatly. So let me see. Thank you, VJ. I appreciate it. Yeah, just don't. The reason I kind of am working really simple with very limited brushes is for a lot of people that you're just starting into the program. It is very deep, it's very powerful, but it's got a lot of stuff that you can kind of get lost on, and I don't think you need, even though you have all those access to the tools you can to work on, you really don't need a lot to, you know, because ZBrush is so powerful, you can really do a lot with it pretty quickly. So again, I'm just kind of playing with a few things. I'm using the in-flat brush, kind of playing with my shapes. I'm going to start bringing your eye back around from here, and again, because I'm taking out. So if you look right there, I took out that shape from the front. I took out the ears. I can bring these in just a little bit, but I don't want those to show because I want to thin down the face. So I'm going to kind of sort of what I was doing in the previous one, where I was kind of using some of that shape that I liked, but by taking out the eyeballs and taking out those ears, that is quite a big jump, you know what I mean? So I'm kind of going off in a different direction. So once I start getting these basic shapes of, you know, what do I like? I like that sweep up on that one. Maybe change the shape of this head a little bit to where it might be, instead of like sharper, I'm going to make it a little bit more to the round. And then I'm going to kind of bring out these eyebrows a little bit more. Even though I don't have any eyes, I still can emphasize the brows, the eye section, the little things that kind of, you know, define the eye a little bit. But let's see. And I'm kind of just sweeping up. Let's bring these down a little bit more. And sorry if you can hear my dog smacking in the background or whatever. I do have a my handy spray bottle, and you'll hear me like, do you want me to call the spray bottle for the dogs? But unfortunately, I can't control if I lock them away. They kind of, you can hear them in the background no matter where I put them in the house. So it's just kind of, and we have some workers across the way working on a house, so they sometimes will go crazy. So I apologize. So I'm gonna, now that I have these kind of shapes kind of going, I'm going to kind of keep sweeping up, and I'll probably, so again, I'm looking for shapes and flow of the design of, you know, what I'm liking. Let's see, if I go up a level, I'm going to go work on this nose a little bit. I'm going to maybe just pull out this nose bridge, almost kind of like it's secondary nose, and I'm going to use this shape kind of play, and I'm going to maybe define out this little nose bridge as like a little fat fold. Anytime you need to sit there and wrap your folds, you know, or certain areas over top of each other, you can use the pinch tool, but what I like to do is I like to mask and then pull, or use the inflat to kind of help bury that a little bit more, kind of have that go up. That kind of really helps that shape. So that way you can kind of get some things kind of turning over and in. So let me see. Start low, yeah. Definitely work very low, guys. Get your forms, get your base forms in, and then you get to your middle level forms, and then the tertiary, the final details come on top. If you don't have a good base to kind of work off, if the silhouette's not working, if the flow's not working in your character, and if it's kind of just dead, and you know, I've seen a lot of people just would hyper focus on just one little area and just kind of get stuck in that, and that just kind of really kind of breaks you know, the flow, and it just gets very boring. So it doesn't make a difference how much detail you put into certain areas. If it's not working, if you're not having good areas that works with the character, then that detail is just going to really kind of fall flat. So be very aware of that. So I'm going to kind of emphasize more like this strength. I'm going to pull that out. Let me see. Can you see a picture like I can get a person who's relief modeling? No, you can ask ZBrushLIVE to actually, you know, to sit there and see if you can find somebody who does that. So, I mean, unfortunately, you know, I don't do that any of my process. So, but I appreciate you checking it out. So I'm going to keep kind of pulling off of some of these skin folds. I'm going to start adding some of the eye up and wrap around into the mouth. I'm going to pull this in. So since I have this shape kind of coming here, I'm going to probably pull this back in just a little bit to where we are noticing more of this eye socket kind of come out. I'm going to probably bring that out just a little bit to help this shape sort of kind of give, when I'm looking down onto the flow, I have some impression of an eye socket here. I have the fat fold of where the eye was, and then I don't really want to see too much of the nose bridge, but then I might kind of sort of So I'm doing sweeps around the shape and I'm kind of looking for it. This is coming up here and I'm going to start to lead your eye around this shape, and this is where I'm starting to kind of maybe pick up a little directional change sweep down here to where I might kind of say, I'm going to go down a little bit. Once I have this sweep, I'm going to go into here, but I have this little fold going from here. I might just kind of pick up maybe something in the back, separate some of this shape from there. So I'm starting to kind of look around the forms and try to figure out how high I want certain things, what's working. Let me go ahead and just save this. Save often. I mean, ZBrush kind of added a phenomenal thing where it saved me about a couple times the quick saves and a couple other stuff, but just be aware, just to have a good habit. Let me see. Yeah, I mean, it depends. The reason I'm starting from the scan data is a lot of times I start from the spheres. I just start tossing stuff together, which I'll kind of show here in a little bit from ideas, depending on how it goes. Everybody has a different way of working. This was just a different way to show how to use a scan head to kind of use some of what's in the head itself to help find forms, find creatures, find that kind of stuff. So, how's it going, move scale? Let's see, until I fix the basic structure of my model, I should be working with low polygon and then details. Think about it, you're working on a lower level, yes, in a way. It's just the forms. Like, I'm not worried about details right now. I'm just getting forms, very big shapes. I'm looking for things that are kind of working, things I want to kind of hide. Because right now, it's a lot easier for me to sit there and change anything that I'm kind of doing at this moment. If I want to sit there and pull these down a little bit, I can do quite a bit quickly. Now, the higher the level you go, what's going to happen is that it's going to be becoming very difficult to move things around because you're dealing with millions of polys instead of just, you know, certain amounts. So just be very aware that, you know, it's just easier to get this form. When I hit an upper level, VJ, then I'm kind of, I'm going to then see those different levels. Then I start adding a little bit more detail in the areas of that I've already created on the lower forms. Like, let's say if I want to pick up this shape and I want to have it kind of be almost kind of an inset or a fat or like a skin fold or almost kind of like a slash, almost kind of like I'm dealing with some kind of cut to echo that form, and then pick up that this is where now I'm at a little bit higher level. I can then start adding that detail that I want to get into that character. Or if I want to sit there and have some kind of weird turn of the flesh, you know, that starts almost kind of like this is the rim of the character, and almost like, again, I'm leading the eye around. He's got some kind of fold that kind of starts to play with some of the heavier brow that I might want to kind of get going. I'm going to use move, but if I don't like some of that detail, I can go into my lower level and just quickly reduce some of that hit without losing some of that detail. Because if I go up into the higher level, guys, that detail is going to be there from the scan data. I have the skin and everything else, but what happens if I start wiping out here, it's gone. But if I go, give me a second, if I go down to my lower levels and I wipe away, those details aren't wiped out because I'm on a lower level. Yeah, I mean, guys, there's basics are key. You can always keep learning the basics. There's never really a stupid question unless you ask it 4 times. That's where I'll kind of go, okay, if you're not listening, then it's a stupid question because you're not going to pay attention to it anyway. That's more the teacher in me to the students. But I kind of want you guys to you know, ZBrush is phenomenal. It's a great program. It allows you to do so much. But yeah, just have fun sculpting. Don't worry about it. You're going to be creating a lot of messed up stuff. I still do. I still have tons of creatures that I just throw into the trash. I'm like, oh, it didn't work. you know, as long as I learn something from it, to me, that's what I consider a success, not the character. If this character is crap today, I'll be like, okay, thanks for showing me create crap. Yeah. Did I learn something from it? Yeah, not to create some crap, but to sit there and just, you know, maybe, you know, not get so into this one direction, or that didn't work, or whatever. Just, you know, doing art is fun, to be quite honest. So I'm going to probably start taking a look at pushing this head in and out a little bit more. I'm going to probably elongate out this jaw, but I'm going to probably, again, thinking of just the profile shot, some of these different folds, and it's almost kind of like, you know, if I'm going to go skiing on a slope or whatever, I want to look for those forms that just are visually interesting, that pick up from each other and kind of move on. So, sorry, oops, I missed someone asked a question. Using fiber mesh in order to make the hair of one of the model, but sometimes the fibers can change the form from slim like hair to very thick geoforms. Well, I mean, your fiber mesh has a whole bunch of different buttons. I think Paul and you know, the guys at ZBrush kind of walk through some of the different tutorials that you're doing. It sounds like whether you're doing on your fiber mesh, you're adding the let me see, well, I have to preview. There's a lot of different in the modifiers. The max fibers, the length, and the coverage are the three main things that will kind of change a lot of your functions of those, along with the profile and the segments down here. Profile is going to say, you know, how many, is it a 4-sided, 8-sided, you know, that kind of stuff. Think of it just like as a tube. Your segments is going to show you divisions along those segments along it. So definitely take a look at some of the YouTube ZBrush tutorials on that. Mendigan, because it kind of, you know, it's so much to go into. Let me see. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the guys will start off very simple and build up and slowly. You're more than welcome for sharing, man. How's it going, George? Actually, I use the move when I'm doing a fiber mesh, and when I'm doing the hair after I've actually accepted it and used it as a subtool, I use the move brush to move the hair around. I mean, there's a lot of you know, because they got the brushes as well, but whatever works best. Try to go with different stuff. Yeah, so yeah, there's groom, everything else. So yeah, failing is part of the progress. Okay, thank you, Peter. It's true. Don't worry about it so much, just as long as you're kind of, you know, having fun. So I'm going to carry with some of this. I'm going to start going really quickly. I'm just going to kind of just start getting some of my skin folds in, some of my directional things that I want. I'm going to again probably inflate this together because I just want to bury it in here, kind of almost bring up, because I have the fat folds from the next kind of going here, so I've got my eye leading down and around. If I want to sit there and kind of bridge up the shape, I want to kind of help maybe do a straight shot here. So I'm going to bring this in and around. So make this more of a flat, flat planar form. Have this kind of go around, and then bring this up again. Here's my ear. I might kind of bring my ear even smaller. So, and again, I can once I go up in level, I'm going to pick up back some of that detail I have, but I want to kind of flatten that. I don't want to go to a full flat. Maybe I just might kind of reduce this ear, pick this up. I'm switching, guys, to damn standard. You can kind of watch the brushes I'm kind of flipping around. I jump around a lot. If I want to just flatten it. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of using the human ear that I actually had and I started from, but I'm kind of changing a few aspects of it to kind of still be recognizable as an ear, but it's not, it's an alien ear. It's kind of almost like just a whole connection. I'm using the damn standard again, but I'm actually flipping by using the Alt. I'm actually making the Z directional. So when you see the Alt, it kind of is going to flip it from the sub to the add. And, okay. All right. So now I'm going to kind of start bringing some of these shapes around. And let's work on the front of the mouth. I'm going to kind of bring this in to kind of start giving more of kind of a focus that you're going to kind of, I'm leading the eye in. So I want to inset the nose bridge, but I want to kind of lead your eye down from this little section as well. So I want to kind of lead by having a lot of lip information, like the lines, leading your eye up, connect, and work around. So maybe since I have this bridge kind of going here, I might kind of put like another little bridge internally. It's subtle, but you know, it's kind of going to kind of give you just a visual similarity. So you start to kind of like, oh, okay, there's a pattern to this creature. Kind of take a look at this, you know, to try to figure out. I might kind of thicken this a little bit and give it like a little, again, this little shape here. I can kind of almost do it down here. And then I'm going to probably separate and give this guy kind of like more of a ridge to his lip, but I kind of want to inset this back a little bit so it's almost kind of like that ski float. His bottom lip, I want to make him look like he's kind of making a purse back. I want to kind of like, okay, he sucked down a lemon. He's kind of bringing in a lot of, you know, visual hits to his mouth areas. Everything's kind of collapsing in this little section. So we're kind of collapsing and then going back out. So, but let's not make it, let's give it a little bit more of a bottom lip. So, yeah, hair's messy, hence the reason I'm not doing any kind of hair. I want to kind of make it a little bit easier on myself. So, okay, let's start playing with the eye, bringing things back, your attention to this. So I'm going to kind of start, when you get things kind of going up, I want to kind of work your eye from this leading line. Like right now, I have this little section where the eye socket used to be. So I'm going to kind of take this and pull back. And again, since I have this shape kind of going here, I kind of want to bring your eye, like I said, I echo. You kind of want to make that, some of the forms they echoed around, and to get your character kind of, your eye kind of flowing. Because whenever you're leading visual interest in a character or whatever, you try to, if someone finds something interesting, they usually will focus on certain parts of your character, and then they'll hit into it. You need to kind of give them an out, your eye and out, to kind of move away from that visual interest that you're leading them to, and then back around to that visual interest. It's almost kind of like in the reason I brought up you know, before is having looked at a lot of the masters is because within their 2D flat paintings and stuff like that, they created worlds that led your eye in and out of the painting and around. So it just didn't kind of like, oh, okay, it's just a you know, just a blank canvas with a dot, you know what I mean? That's what you're looking at. That's the only thing you're looking at, because that's the only thing that's leading your eye to it. So you need to kind of make sure you're sort of doing that with characters. You're just kind of leading your eye around. It's just like in your portfolio pieces, you're going to make it just, you know, as artists, we have to kind of create things that are, you know, moving and pleasing most of the times to the viewer. Okay, so I'm not really liking this shape that I was kind of going with in the previous one. I think I want to make this a little bit wider. So now I'm kind of just going out in space, because I want to sit there and have this probably pick out a little bit more of the shape. So it's almost kind of like this needs to be set in a little bit. Not too much, just enough that it starts to build up some of that interest, and then leads your eyes down. And let's bring out this jaw a little bit more. Okay, and then so it's almost kind of like we're going to have that kind of rest up, and then we're being picked up, and then this is going to continue that form a little bit. We could probably, on this little inset, we could separate and then bring this down as part of that fat fold. That's a pretty straight shot though, so I need to kind of just blend that a little bit out. I'm using the move tool, and I'm kind of pulling out, guys, to kind of play with my forms a lot. I'm going to inset this neck a little bit, because I want to kind of probably start playing with the jawline. Again, using a lot of what this guy has. I think the thing is, now that I'm kind of detailing out the face, the neck is now getting to the way, because it's just a straight shot up into it. It's not really allowing you to kind of, you know, concentrate on that jawline. So by pulling in right there, just a couple of them, now I'm starting to see that jawline, which is now leading my eye up to here. I'm hitting this and bringing it around. Okay, before I was just kind of straight shot up, and it wasn't really working for me. So I'm going to kind of probably make the neck a little bit longer. Let's give it a little bit of an interest. And I've got a couple interesting shapes here that I probably want to sit there and say, well, okay, well, I want to hint, now that I got this neck kind of going in, I just want to hint a little bit of that reverse shape. So maybe his, you know, he's got some collarbones, you know, subtle, but I mean, it's there. Just to kind of give it like, okay, I'm kind of reversing. It's almost kind of like, think of a plane of water, and you're actually kind of seeing some things flipped from your design. Yeah, no third eye. He's not a Cyclops. So I'm going to kind of, and if you notice, I've been very much down in my lower levels. I'm going to start, after I save this guy, I'm going to start bringing them up to higher levels, because I got to get moving into, I've been talking a little bit too much. I need to sit there and get a little bit more detail so I can get to Polypaint. And most of you guys are kind of, you know, you're talking about the fiber brush, which is great. So you're keeping yourself occupied. Okay, so I'm going to go up into my higher levels. I'm going to just start taking a look at some of those levels, whatever the details that I want to kind of start separating. I'm going to dam standard, and I'm kind of just start separating, pulling out some of those details, some of those extra skin folds that kind of start adding some interest to the character. But I want to sit there and kind of, you know, I'm just making noise, you know, skin folds, details, variations of the character to kind of, that I've already built up on the lower forms and stuff, and kind of, you know, okay, I see some of, you know, this might be some skin flaps or whatever kind of coming up and around, but it's hitting, like, you know, or maybe taking the skin flap here and then leading your eye down the side of the face. And around. Okay. So it's kind of like, it allows us to kind of think of, you know, the forms as just, they're already kind of there, and we're just adding that little kind of detail to help bring your eye into certain directions. So I have these major sweeping forms kind of going, but if I need something a little bit extra to kind of define, well, you know, hey, this skin's kind of turning this way, back and forth, it's kind of making a decision, and finally gravity pulls this down towards this direction to kind of, you know, help define that form. And again, I don't want to put skin detail everywhere because I want to actually have your eye resting on certain areas, because if everything is so detailed everywhere, it kind of doesn't allow me to sit there and show the areas that I want to lead your eye or direction. So like right now I want to kind of concentrate a little bit more on, you know, maybe this, where now since he's blind, you know, and he hasn't used his eyes in so long, he has a lot of skin folds. They've been welded shut for so long that they just, the skin just folds up like, you know, dead sacks or whatever. You want to build characters with story. You want to kind of give, because those stories will kind of help your elements of interest and reason for, you know, why this character has these things happening. So, so now that I have that detail in there, I'm just going to kind of emphasize a little bit more of that. Hey, this guy has a lot of that skin that's old, dead. That allows me to sit there, and when I go to color, I can kind of define out more, you know, of the reason. I'm going to kind of create like a little cavity in here because I want to sit there and separate out this little section. Okay, so I'm kind of not liking, I'm going to turn this back down, and then I'm going to use that to kind of separate, like maybe this, my fold. I'm doing in flat again to kind of make it a little bit heavier. Turn, and I'm going to use in flat again to kind of, with move, to bring down that ridge. And maybe pinch just a little bit to fold in those eyes, like so. So I'm kind of giving some weight. He still has expression, even though he doesn't. How's it going, Kevin? Even though he doesn't have eyes, he still is going to be able to give expression because he has the eyebrows and the furrow of that direction. Okay, a little bit too heavy. Let's try that again. As we do detail on that one. So, okay, kind of liking, so this direction, I'm going to kind of add, sometimes my ZBrush, I'm getting kind of like little skips like water, and that's what's happening to me right now. It's not fun. It's like it decides to, my brush is deciding to stop. Makes it interesting. I don't need enough challenges. So, alright, let's go back up and try it again. Okay, I'm getting this straight line cut from that initial brow, so I'm going to go down, I'm just going to wipe that away a little bit, because I want to sit there and have some of that detail from it, but I don't want it coming across in such a harsh way. So by having some of that skin there, but reducing that little line across, I still will have a little bit of that interest. I'm going to use in flat to kind of pump up. Okay. Okay, so let's define out this nose a little bit more. I think I want to bring back some of that nose bridge and define this maybe a little bit. Since I have a lot of things kind of sweeping out, I need to kind of bring some things like more straight down. So I'm going to kind of probably take those nostrils, and because I have a lot of the mouth kind of pursing, I'm going to bring in the nostrils to more of a straight. Sometimes in your work you need to have straight shots, flat surfaces, things that kind of help define out more round shapes within your forms. So I'm going to kind of bring that in like so. I think that works a little bit better. And then I'm going to kind of maybe bring just a little bit higher and define. So now I can define that nose a little bit. I'm going to give some skin folds to make them a little bit more like this is a harder bone, and then this is the skin folds pulling around it. Okay. And just give it a little bit of a flat right there to kind of say it's not as sharp. Okay. Kevin, a lot of times I just draw, and when you kind of get some good things happening, or you think some good things are happening, you just kind of keep at it. The best thing, because if you break and you keep taking all these breaks because you're trying to wait for that aha moment, those happy accidents, you have less opportunities to find those happy accidents. So to me, as an artist, you just got to keep at it and take less breaks, work more, and you have more opportunity. If I show you guys my trash box of all the crap I have that I never show you guys, I'd be embarrassed. But it just allows me to kind of go, hey, there's tons of stuff, but I kept at it. And some of those things that I didn't find that worked for a character or that I thought didn't look good, I went back later and took a look at those, and what I considered was not a very pleasant thing I was able to use and rework it. But if I had given it up or not kind of worked through that process, then I wouldn't have that opportunity. So just keep at it. Don't expect phenomenal things to happen all the time, but like I said, the more you do, the more possibilities you have of something that you like. So like I said, I call them the nice little happy accidents, because there's plenty of times that it's like if I'm doing something and I make a sweep and I'm like, oh, that I didn't think that worked, but that led my brain to kind of flip over and go a different direction to make something really cool. That's a good thing. So how much do I earn as a 3D artist? I just turned 48, guys, so I've been at this for quite a bit. I came from illustration. I drew as a kid since I was 4, and then I went into illustration and then animation for Disney, and then got into games and did a whole bunch of different stuff. I've gone freelance now for almost 5 years, and I do fairly well. But that's, I'm not, to me, if you are looking to make major bucks and stuff like that, then, some people do. But art is not like a Fortune 500 kind of thing. So don't expect much. But when you get out, usual salaries, for game artists and stuff like that, you can find resources on there to actually see that, think about 45,000. Thank you, Craig. You're my new best friend. But don't expect a lot of money. And what I find is a lot of people today don't want to do the work unless they are making 6 figures. You're not going to be making that for a very long time, if ever. So just do art for art's sake. I mean, guys, I sit and I watch TV all day. I sculpt and I draw. It's not a bad life. So it's almost kind of like, They don't even have to pay me to do it. You know, I'm not going to tell them that, but it's you know, I enjoy what I do, and I enjoy the fact that I get to meet other artists that I'm inspired by. Okay, I'm having some serious problem with my pens right now, guys. It's kind of skipping on me big time. Better go down another level. See if that fixes it. Nope. I doubt that, Peter, but thank you. Okay, I'm going to kind of, since I've got a lot of this folds going, and if you know from the scan data, he had a kind of like a lot of that aged folds, and if you notice, I'm just kind of skipping back and forth. I'm just making noise, but I'm actually I have a pattern. It's almost kind of like I'm thinking in and out of the different directions, because when you get older, the skin just starts to, you know, go in a lot of different directions. It's kind of bunched up from the different age of being torn in 2 different directions. So it's never really going to be one, you know, it's not going to be stretch like that. You want to kind of just use your brush to kind of change those angles and just give some of that beat up look. And if you can kind of, you know, definitely take a look at, you know, rhino skin, elephant skin, that kind of stuff. Larger animals that you'll actually notice, you want to do those references to kind of pull from. So, okay. I'm going to kind of bring this in to kind of give them sort of like, you know, the skin's going to come down and bunch around. Okay. And I'm just going to kind of turn it. Okay. So, let me go ahead and finish this guy up. Now I could go back once I have some of these skin directional things that I have. As you guys have been noticing, I've been kind of just sculpting a lot of this in. I'm going to just kind of probably use some alphas real quickly before I go into Polypaint, just to kind of give a little bit of that extra detail in the areas that I kind of want. Again, it's like I could kind of probably keep sculpting on this guy, adding all those details. Since I'm having the problems with my brush, I'm going to switch over. Oh, okay. As you can see right there, that ear kind of came back. I'm going to go down on the levels to wipe out, go up on a level, wipe out. So as you can kind of see, I'm kind of erasing some of that extra detail. And then I might emphasize just a little bit. Okay, I'm having fun. The brush is not wanting to work with me. Okay. All right. So if I'm taking a look at the back here real quick, I'm just going to kind of go down. I'm just going to emphasize these just a little bit because I put a lot of detail into the front of the head. If I can do it. Okay, as you see right there, it's skipping like a weird like rock on the lake. It's been doing it to me for a little bit. Okay, so I just want to kind of just emphasize just a little bit of the detail on the back of the head, but I might even just give up on it and switch over. Okay. And I'm just going to blend out just some of those details, just because I'm not liking how they're looking. Okay. Alright. His back of his head. Let's go bring this down a little bit more. Gonna make him a little bit thinner. Now that I kind of pulled that neck in. Okay. And okay, so I'm gonna go to my standard brush. I'm gonna go to I drag, and I'm going to go ahead and import in some alphas real quick. I'm just going to grab a quick leatherly. As you see right now, I'm at 2000. I'm going to go ahead and just kick up one extra level, just because if I'm going to bring in the texture of the, alphas and stuff like that, I really need to make sure that I have a very good amount of pixels to actually deal with that. Now, what I normally do, if I've been pushing and pulling, and because I actually just pulled from that eye, I might actually kind of go ahead and actually take a look at this guy. I'm going to stretch him out just a little bit to help. Just look. Okay, that helps. You want to, if you're going to do the skin work, you need to actually have the poly stick actually kind of deal with it. So I just stepped up a little bit to do that, and then I'm just going to kind of, I want to start to bring in, now that's way too much, as you can kind of tell, so I'm going to knock down the intensity, and I'm just going to look for a nice intensity. Now when I drag this out, if you see, a lot of the detail is coming out. I'm just going to hold down Alt to just kind of reverse that, and that might not be the right brush. I'm not really liking that, so let me find something else. There's tons of alphas that you can probably find. I actually, if I'm gonna do aged kind of creature stuff, a lot of times you could just pull from like an elephant. It gives you some of that extra work. So, oh, I think I got. How long did it take me to learn anatomy? I've been studying anatomy for quite a long time. I mean, it's never really ending, to be quite honest. Craig, you just got to kind of keep kind of looking and studying. And I'm not very good at knowing the names. Like I said, I should probably take the lesson to kind of learn the names again, but I haven't quite done it, or I don't remember them from what I've actually had learned them. But I do know that certain certain muscle groups and stuff like that, I have my base anatomy, I kind of build on that, and I'm always looking at reference as well. Like I can draw a cat, but it's going to be one ugly ass cat because if I don't look at reference, so it's better for me to kind of study reference. So I'm actually kind of like, if I didn't have this, some of the forms to kind of play off with, and I haven't been talking to you guys and kind of showing you some of the different things, I would be looking at different human anatomy references and stuff like that. But I'm kind of just kind of giving you guys an idea, just to quickly play and look at this stuff and just create, have fun with it. So I'm just adding some of the skin folds again. I'm not really being precise. I'm just dragging and dropping and moving on, because I want to sit there and get to some poly painting here. But I'm just giving some of this detail, and this is all from the same stamp. You can switch it up, you can create layers, and then again, which I showed in last episode, it's kind of there might be certain areas that when you're going to create, that you want to kind of, just like you're having a lot of the details in certain areas, you want to sit there and maybe have a rest. So maybe I might not put as much, that there might be less detail there, or this area right here, if I want this to be the skin, like it's almost kind of like a more weaker area of skin, or smooth area, you don't put a lot of the detail onto it. Or let's just say that this is my base level, and I might want to bring in some more detail, animal skin on the back here, that allows me to kind of build up some, like he's rough in that little area, right? So just a little bit there to kind of say, on the back he has the roughest part of the skin, you know what I mean? And then as it kind of pulls over, the elephant skin is the secondary level of roughness, and then he has smooth areas. So it's sort of like when you're working on characters, try to think of like a couple different areas of level of interest, of variations of materials that you can pull off of. So let's say if this character had Flesh is one major one, then bone, and then leather. And there's 3 different material hits, looks, variations of styles that you can pull off of to give some interest to the character. So think of it like that. When you're creating a creature that's basically just alien, there's not a lot of sometimes the details that you can pull from. So do that within the skin layer itself. Separate that this is where the sun bakes down, and then that's all dried out, but then he has some of like the wetness where he constantly has his eyes tearing up, so it's all wet and pory in there to separate by specular, separate by color, by all the different things. So do you apply for game companies or freelance? I get sorry, I kind of trailed off before. I've been lucky enough to work with a lot of cool people over the years, and I've been able to sit there and make a lot of great contacts from it. Doing art is, of course, key. Good art, I should say. Working hard, doing good art. But networking, guys, is also a major part of your day-to-day that you need to do. It's like I think on my LinkedIn, I'm over 10,500 people, whatever. And so when I put out, hey, I'm looking, or I have an opening for my plate, then I have those friends or those people that I've worked with or contacts, and that just allows me to kind of get a job pretty quickly. I've been very lucky freelancing, to be quite honest. I have a lot of more talented friends that don't really have a lot of luck, and that's mainly because a lot of their networking is not quite up to snuff, and their art's better. So, and sometimes, honestly, there is dry periods where there's like doesn't seem like there's anything. So you got to be prepared for that. Okay, so I'm just adding just a little bit more of like this roughness in the skin that I'm gonna probably hide anyway, but I'm trying to give some of. And I'm again pushing in and out of my the alt, using the alt to kind of give like the pores, so like he's got a lot of blackheads or visual interest. And just because I used one before and jumping around, maybe I might want to just add a little bit more of that detail intermixed with that to kind of give some of that roughness, because I didn't really do any in here. Okay, I missed it. Also, guys, if there's certain areas you don't want to alpha over or whatever, just do that, and then that way it allows you to kind of separate. If I'm in an area, don't forget about masking to protect certain areas that you want to keep less detail. And if I do get a little bit of that, I could just smooth out. Okay. Okay. I think he is at a good area of interest right now. So now let's start. I'm going to save this real quickly, because I'm going to be jumping to Polypaint. You're more than welcome, Noble Yard. Yad, appreciate it. What kind of jobs do I get as a freelancer? I'm all over the place, guys, to be quite honest. If you look at my website, I do Disney to death. I've jumped into a lot of different styles, and that's kind of rare, to be quite honest. So, there's guys that kick my butt in every single area because they specialize in it, and that's one thing you just got to be aware of, that there's going to be guys that are just strong no matter what you do, to be quite honest. But you kind of want to, by being a jack of all trades, I'm a master of nothing kind of thing. But I do have that wide degree of ability to jump from something cutesy to something realistic to death to stuff. But I would probably say just focus more on realism. Like if you're doing for games, environment props are probably the most area needed. That's the biggest area of where jobs are kind of to be filled, because they're big worlds, and you'd kind of, there's a lot to be done. And I would say work on realistic props, because if you could do something realistic, you're able to kind of pretty much do a lot of different things. If you're stuck in a style, if you do just one style, then you're limiting yourself to the style. A lot of people think that the guys over at Blizzard can only just, that's just their style. No, they're phenomenal traditional artists. I've seen a lot of their work. It's just beautiful. But because of that background of traditional life drawing and everything else, they're able to adapt and just draw into that style together. Being consistent across a bunch of different artists is very difficult, and that's talent. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to start with my color. I'm going to switch over to just my standard. I'm just going to go ahead and just do the current stroke. I'm going to switch over to my ZBrush illustration paint. I'm switching from that Z98 material that I like to sculpt in to something that's just going to be kind of that I can see. So visually, do not sculpt with this material. There's a lot of materials you do not want to sculpt with, but I want to sit there and use that to sit there and build in my paint. I'm going to go to, it's a little bit dark because again I'm working dark to light. I want to kind of like have stuff in the crevices that I want to kind of pull from, so I'm just going to go color. Right now my material, I want to make sure I turn on to RGB, turn off Z-add. I'm just going to go ahead and say fill object at 100 right now, but then I'm going to reduce down to 30-40, and I'm going to start to build out those areas. I think with this guy, again, by having those visual interests of where I want, or the rougher skin to the wetness areas, I'm going to probably go to something a little bit more to the flesh tones, but I want it to be kind of almost zombie-like. I'm going to keep some of this area, you know, the red underneath. I'm going to start to kind of build up those areas. I have kind of like on this alpha right now, it's a little bit more of a subtlety. If I want more of a separation of pox of the object, you could take a look at different ones. Like if I use this alpha, it's kind of giving that more pocky look, which is great, you know what I mean, too. So it's almost kind of like if this guy is almost kind of like blemished up, I can just kind of keep pulling up. Now, you know, some people said like, why don't I just kind of pull from a photograph or do whatever? You could do that. You can definitely pull those in, but by doing this, I'm able to kind of, I'm just creating something that's not exactly from, and this is where a lot of people, you know, there's a difference between being inspired and emulating and copying outright. So, you know, there's tons of traditional artists like Steve Wang, George Duchel, a lot of those guys that I love. If I just pull from, if I put one of their shots on top of it and I pull from it, I'm kind of, it's hard to pull away from it. Like if I just say, oh, I like that color, I like the color choices that artist did, and I just put it down there to kind of start pulling out those colors, well, I just could easily just go ahead and just do color pick or get close to those colors that I like and just build up for myself without taking their work and putting it into mine. So again, if it's not going to be anywhere near as good as those guys, but I'm building and it's mine, and I want to kind of, you want to try to, as an artist, try to keep to that, you know what I mean? It's very important, because it only takes a moment to kind of get into trouble and, you know, turn from emulation to theft. And as a young artist, just you're learning, or, you know, I don't know, there's just, like I said, those guys are damn cool, but they have their work. You want to kind of take your work and separate yourself. So I'm going to kind of take a look at what I'm doing. In this area, I think I want to have red. I want to kind of bring out some of them. I'm going to probably keep to, and again, if it's taking too many swipes, just go ahead and step up your level of area, what you're bringing in. And I'm thinking I want some of this skin maybe to kind of start blending in. And I think the lip area, maybe here, up into the nose is going to start to go, and then separate the flesh. So from there. So this is going to be a dark area in here. I have some of my flesh folds, but I probably want to slowly have like this blend down. And then I'm going to have like maybe the pursed lips that I could kind of pull back, but I definitely want to have those. There we go. This inset, I think I'm going to go ahead and just have as like a little cut, also to had this color. How's it going, Mohammed? You guys are still with me, right? I think, good. And then I think down in here, I'm going to have this kind of blend in and just have that little, and I could always, guys, I could always grab colors again if I lose something, or if I overswipe, or if it's not working. You can always just kind of push and pull colors and stuff. And, but again, I'm just kind of getting things down. I am gonna sweep to, you know, before, like another character, I kind of had specific colors, you know, swapped from like the front, but I think I'm gonna blend, and I think I'm gonna have most of my interest of color variation towards the front in this little section. I think that would kind of work, because this is more of like the rough skin surrounding on the back, and I'm not doing anything that, you know, I don't have any kind of fleshy bits or anything coming out of it. Ugh. Okay. Sorry, my phone was going crazy. And you guys are, like, you know, welcome to ask any questions as we go along. Alright. So now that I have that kind of color sort of going, I'm going to, again, I'm going to start pitching up into different highlights of this one. I'm going to start separating using some of the colors that I have, but I could keep kind of swapping to this color, but I think I want to start going a little bit more stark. I almost want them kind of like, this is going to be zombie flesh, and then this is going to be a darker, almost purplish kind of red with some splotches. So I'm going to go and just going to step up a little bit, and yeah, I think I'll probably keep to that same one, but I might kind of bring up my color a little bit. So I'm gonna probably just say that I want this to be a little bit brighter. So it's almost kind of like gonna surround. Sorry guys. I want this to be pretty much just like a stark separation around. Pop out. So we're kind of bringing the eye into that. This is going to kind of sort of blend in, and I'm going to have some things probably, I might do somewhat to where I kind of will bring up the lightness, the white into here once I start getting this fleshed out. And I'm going to probably start lighting the skin towards the front of the face, and then I'll blend that towards the back. So it's like most of my light skin will be here, almost like he's pale, and then bring some of that down on the neck and the side of the cheeks. And as I start to get around here, I'm going to start falling off, splotching out a little bit, because I want to kind of, and I'll probably bring in some kind of like alpha that will start splotching this around, because I sort of did that one alpha with the skin back here that I kind of liked, so I might bring that back, so I can go back to dark. This one, I'm going to bring my collarbone back up, so I'm going to probably lighten that up. Retopo, you're talking about like when you're doing like high poly, low poly stuff, game stuff, or are you talking about now that I kind of messed with this so much that I want to sit there and tweak, fix a little bit of things? Your work, do you make UV masks, etc.? Well, I mean, ZBrush has a phenomenal quick UV master kind of stuff on. I highly suggest it. And if I'm doing Polypaint, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll use, if I'm doing this for, let's say, a game, I'm making a game creature. What I'll do is I'll take this high poly, I'll decimate it down, or export out with Polypaint, and then I'll just use Substance Painter or something of the sort to kind of pull the high poly onto my low poly if I'm going the game direction. If I'm doing low poly work, as you asked Mahina about Retopo, I use 3D Studio Max. I've just been in 3D Studio Max the longest time, and I just go ahead and I would take this character, I would go ahead and export it out as like a decimated high poly mesh, but a little bit lower, and then I would go ahead and just start using the low poly tools within it to kind of start playing around with it, and build on top of this. I'm going to go to a smoother alpha, probably alpha 31. I'm going to start separating, bringing some variation of color into this section of eye and nose. I'm going to probably, because again that was stark, but all I did was just kind of slowly building up a little bit of the flash. And as you can see right there, by having some of those alphas, I'm blending in. It's automatically blending because of the intensity on their RGB. It's just allowing me to sit there and quickly get a little bit of different feel. I have that alpha that's kind of blending with it. I might kind of go like that. This might be a little bit darker, and I might kind of go over top of this little area as well. Okay, so now that I kind of have some of this separated, I might start bringing in a little bit more of the details that I want to kind of go ahead. I'm going to turn this off, and I'm going to go freehanding. I'm going to turn off my alpha on this one, and I'm going to probably pick up some of the white, and I'm just going to draw some of my back into my lines, because I'm going to start kind of bringing the pattern of I don't have to go light, of my skin folds. So I kind of want to have him to where he's highlighting, like the skin edges are a little bit more accented on those edges. I'm going to do some designs that I've actually kind of pulled into. So if I really want to sit there and have a lot of these different skin folds, I'm going to start bringing out almost kind of like this is a leaf, and some of that flesh that I kind of started separating, I'm going to kind of start bringing up. Almost kind of like, think of as a flower, weird mushroom like we were talking about last episode, or just some of those little, because I want to define like there's a whole bunch of that old skin and veins, but it's almost, because I got the red, I'm going to kind of change the normal veins from being red to kind of like this white skin fold mixture. Yeah, if I was going to do this, the Polypaint, actually you could just cast onto, by bringing this into Substance, and let's say you had your low poly all kind of completed, then you can actually bake your Polypaint to your low poly, and then you can kind of tweak from there. So that's how a lot of the process I'll do. I'll kind of play around with some of my colors, and I'll do the Polypaint for quite a few different things, and then I'll just kind of bring it into Substance, and I'll just detail it out from there. So okay, I know what so I'm kind of bringing up some of the highlighted areas that I want. I'm getting kind of stark a little bit too much, but I'll kind of come back, kind of blending using again, my brush is kind of giving me that little skip thing even on this one. So this is, it's like I'm not having any detail, and all of a sudden I'm having too much. Jump back, forth, jump back, forth. But yeah, I have a tendency to use it that way, and then Photoshop and everything else, and go goes on from there. The, you know, the tools that we kind of use. But I use quite a few different programs, to be quite honest. I'm all over the place. A lot of different engines, a lot of different things. And that's just part of being a freelance. When you're inside of a studio, you have you pretty much, you're just focusing on, you know, their exact tools. But freelance is sort of like you get out and everybody has a different way to fold their towel, pretty much. So it becomes kind of it's kind of a challenging. That's main challenge, I would say, for freelancing. Okay, I'm smoothing out a couple of these things. I'm just blending and making sure that you turn off your Z-add because I don't want to blend out a lot of those things. So, okay. I'm going to play up this little turn just a little bit, kind of like it's going into, you know, then I probably want to play some highlights off of that little forehead turn and maybe, you know, this just a little bit. And I'll probably blend like it's working. So, okay, I'm going to go up even higher. And now I'm just adding some of that super level detail of the flesh. Sort of like I did with the skin, I'm just kind of teetering back and forth, lifting and pushing down, and kind of just trying to really define certain areas. And I'm going to go probably back over top of, you know, this. So, and I think I might kind of push this thing back a little bit more, because I think I just like the fact that this is just here, but I don't like the red. I mean the white. So I'm going to go darker even into my crevices. Okay. And probably just kind of detail out some of the flesh. Okay, let's go back to, let's probably bring in just a little bit of purples and some blues. It's there, it's kind of hard to see, guys. It's kind of like the value. And it's pretty close to the previous one. I'm just kind of blending a little bit. Kind of around the mouth area. Okay. Oops. Sweet, I went too far. I'm just going to cool this down around here. Maybe go into the blue. Blending out that little light. So so now let me go ahead and I'm going to go back to some of my previous ones that I've used. I'm going to probably go to a more of a red. Now with certain stamps, like if you hold down Alt, it's going to kind of just give you the dark. Actually, let me probably do that. Let me go a little bit dark to bring up some of separation of the skin. So this is what I was talking about. Like I can have this alpha over top and I'm pretty much just having that dark color come into the certain areas, which then pop that highlight that I have. This is maybe not as highlighted as I want, so I'm going to probably, or you know, I'm going to go and flip. So I might want to go higher value to bring out some of that skin detail underneath that I was trying to do, because I want to kind of give some of that skin variation that I sort of had, maybe some on the face here as it leads up. And again, I'm using that alpha to kind of paint in color tones and everything that I kind of, you know, don't have. So I'm adding some of that around, and then I'm going to probably come back in and just kind of blend these in a little bit more, either with that same alpha brush or just to sit there and just kind of like a couple. I'm intermixing it. So you're noticing right now I'm kind of getting a lot of different skin breakup, skin variations. That's kind of helping me with that, some of the interest that I actually was trying to do with my folds and alphas for the skin texture. And I'm going to kind of probably blend that a little bit. Save. And I have a lot of detail in here. I need to kind of bring some of this breakup into this one. So I'm going to go a little bit darker. I'm into the purple range here, and I'm going to kind of maybe go a little bit darker. And what that does is gives a visual breakup to your eye, that kind of like, you know, it's still smooth, but you know, not as smooth. Okay. And these are just layers that I'm just playing on top of it. You could create a whole bunch of stuff, layers, and play with this by having your layers on and off and everything. It's, you know, that's another way to go about it. There's so many ways to go about working on your creatures and your characters in ZBrush that it kind of, you know, it's overwhelming in a good way. So, alright, so I'm just adding this general skin texture breakup even more. Pull it to the back. Okay. Okay. So I think the thing is he's kind of, I need to blend between the dark reddish to the white. I need to kind of blend. So either I can kind of pick, if I did white over top of it, I think it's going to kind of blur it out a little bit. It's going to make him too ghostly. I want to kind of make this guy alien, but I need to pick up, I think, some of this kind of more red tone, maybe towards the pink, you know, to kind of start pulling this. I'm going to switch more to my elephant because I'm going to start kind of blending again. So I'm bringing in some of that warmth and that balance across into the skin around to help blend and warm up those areas. Now, some areas are going to be a little bit more towards that white stark area that I want. But for these, I want to kind of blend those two tones together. On the nose, I might kind of bring some of those highlights in the area. Let me go ahead and just turn off those really quickly. Pick this one. Yeah, I mean, it could be, you know, that's a compliment. Character from Star Trek. I mean, that's the cool thing. When you're just kind of creating, there's some things that maybe you've seen or whatever, the shapes, or again, maybe the actor looks like he's from Star Trek. I don't know. You start to kind of find some things into the shapes that has been pulled before. So I'm going to take this nose bridge and I'm going to kind of give him some veinage breakup. And this is where I'm talking about like some of the painting, you know, when you come back in and you paint some of those interests to kind of bring some style or just little details that kind of, you know, you might like to see. How am I doing on time? 2:30? Oh, okay. Actually doing pretty good. Picked it up. Okay. So once I have those, I'm going to kind of probably, now that I have that color, do the same thing from here. Bring some of that pink around. And then I can use my smooth brush to blend those colors together. And let's pick up some of that skin fold detail that I kind of like, and then just kind of almost like he has some of like the veins or now I can use an alpha to kind of do some of the veinage if I want, but I mean, I'm kind of picking up some of what I did in my sculpt, leading the eye again. So it's just fun. I'm just now kind of painting, kind of creating as I look for shapes, using the color as well. So it's starting to kind of look like a slab of meat, like he's been quite a few fights. It's a little too hard. And start picking up, maybe kind of have some of that, go from there. Kind of like it bleeds out and around. Yeah, you could do a lot within ZBrush. I just use it for specific things, and I kind of jump into other things I'm kind of used to, and some programs I have a tendency to use more than others for different functions. But like I said, ZBrush is very powerful, so it's one of the most powerful programs I've used. I love it. Guys are damn cool. That's the reason I'm doing this within ZBrush. But there's so many ways to go about things. Just you as an artist, guys, just try to figure out what works best for you. Unless you're in a job and they tell you to do a specific way, then you're kind of stuck. But since I'm freelance, I have to do the same thing. If they say, hey, we need this for this game engine, then I'm doing it in that game engine. So, okay, so I'm picking up some of this weird, that's going to be part of the design, I think. Whatever, I got kind of almost like he's got electrical kind of stuff going on. Let's see, probably hey Jimmy, how's it going? Thanks for joining today. Okay. Okie dokie, so let's go and define some of those darker areas we want. I'm gonna probably switch my alpha. use it as a blend. And so I'm just using this to kind of separate up. I might pick up some more of the warmth. Thank you, Andres. I appreciate it. Thank you, Lamentus. I mean, it's just fun. And honestly, guys, I'm not very good at this. I don't usually polypaint. I've just been sort of doing this is kind of like to kind of push myself, to be quite honest, because I just usually have always done the sculpting, so I'm just kind of just been getting into doing the color of my characters and stuff, because I usually just stopped, and I was just kind of like either let somebody else figure it out, or I just never just took it past that point. It wasn't until I started getting together with Grim and those guys, I started learning from them as well on pushing myself, and they kind of course, were teasing me to kind of do a little bit more, take my characters to more final, which is, you know, it's always good to push yourself. It's sort of like, if you're not good at hands, do nothing by hands. You know what I mean? If you're not good at whatever you're not good at, just go ahead and just do it until you're somewhat okay. Yeah, you gotta. It's definitely. I'm keeping it kind of short. You know what I mean? I'm trying to 2 hours in for these things, you know, pretty much just to kind of get myself an idea. And if I, you know, because who knows? I mean, there's when you do texturing on this, there's so many different ways to go with texturing that it just kind of can change the character entirely. So you kind of have to, you know, you could do. I mean, the reason I did this guy again, the scan data is to show that it's like, you know, just because I went one direction with him on episode 1 doesn't mean that I can't create something entirely different by using that same head. Same thing with texturing. It's like, you know, it's really going to change the way that this character, if I took this guy and redid him again texture wise, and I want different colors, different tone, it will make an entirely different character. All those things have to kind of come together to make it work. So, okay. And again, I'm using some of the values, the higher pitched values, to kind of, that's kind of more recessed, so I think I'm going to kind of pull that back a little bit, because it was kind of, because that value was popping out to me. By just knocking it back, that sets that eye, and I'm going to blend those out a little bit more, because I want this to pop. Then I can come back, and in those areas, bring those out. If it works. Not working. And I had all those different lines going on, so I'm going to kind of emphasize those a little bit more, and then I'm going to probably go back in between and just darken subtly to kind of drop those forward. Okay. Now, if you feel like this is becoming, like you're ever into the point where it's becoming a little bit more painterly, thank you, Avi, appreciate it. You could always go back and do layers. This brush. You can go back and do another layer over top of it with the different alphas. I'm going to bring this forward a little bit more. Okay, and then I'm going to go blend them out a little bit using that alpha, because I'm bringing the face a little bit more to the white into the front. So he's becoming a little bit more stark. And I'm going to blend the skin together just a little bit there. Okay. Making it a little bit brighter. So I'm building up. you ever break symmetry on a bus like this. I tend to kind of keep more towards symmetry, and I don't know if it's just the fact that it's like it's. I mean, I guess if I wanted to break asymmetry, I would just kind of like, you know, make the one eye up, you know. But I mean, I do have a tendency to kind of keep to a lot of symmetry on a lot of the things I do while I'm creating, I guess. And then when I bring this guy to a final, I would probably bring a lot of the asymmetry into it. Not tons of asymmetry, but just enough to kind of give it a little bit more of a. Because I mean, honestly, we could probably just quickly pose this guy too. When you're doing, it's amazing how a lot of people don't pose their character, but it takes so much to give, you know, the character kind of like a look at. It gives so much, I should say, to the character just by just having a little subtle variation in the pose, and it doesn't take very much to do so. Sorry. Sometimes, guys, I get lost in my train of thought along with what I'm doing. So I'm brightening this up a lot, and I'm going to probably go back. Actually, I like and darkening the skin there. Yeah. I mean, I've met Neville a few times. He's a very nice guy, talented. I don't know what he would say to this, to be quite honest. So, but yeah, those guys that do that, that's insane. I've done a few of the ZBrush summits where you just kind of like, you know, you got 3 hours and draw. It becomes very difficult, to be quite honest. It's pretty intense. So I'm going to go back to this pink, but I might first get some more purple in there. I don't know, he feels, I need to bring more of variation, and I want to kind of cool down some of these areas so I can pop that eye. The reason I'm doing the purple in these deep recesses is to kind of give something for the lighter color to jump off of. So I'm now going to pick this general color and I'm going to go up, but I might go a little bit more towards the red. Okay. If it's too stark of an alpha, I really don't want to do the pores. Let's try the leathery skin. Kind of seems to work because it's picking up some of what I've had from underneath, and I'm using it to kind of lead the eye. Actually, I'm going to go back to my trusted elephant skin, I think, to blend that up. I like that warm, but not too much, so I'm just going to go back down. And as you can see, some of that brush work that I already did, I'm using it to blend these together. And I'm going to pick up some of the color in there and there. Yeah, I enjoy it. It's fun just to kind of like create and just have some fun with these, you know. It's very powerful. So I'm blending out, using that. I think I'm going to warm up my skin again. I'm going to go back to, even though I've cooled it down, I'm warming up certain areas again by blending back and forth. Just because I did one color doesn't mean that I'm going to stick with that color. I just did one big sweep. Took a second. If you saw that, I just warmed it up. Okay, I have that warm back in there. Gonna do it at the back here, and then I'm going to go back now over with my white, and I'm going to go back to that skin tone. I'm going to see how this looks. And I probably, so as you can see, I'm starting to get that flesh tone again, the color, it's blending a little bit better. Here. Let's see. Trying to catch up with what some of you guys are saying. Sorry, got kind of lost there for a second. I think, Peter, you're talking about when I was in the summit. Yeah, I kind of thought it was moving pretty good, and then I had a crash, and then I was like, ah. And then it kind of, I was in the zone for a little bit. I think I was moving pretty well, and then all of a sudden that was over. It was pretty insane. Okay, I've got most of the area that I kind of like. I'm going to go way up into my whites. And I'm going to kind of just start to really kind of go to, because I'm thinking that aged skin, you know what I mean, that it's really dried out aged skin. That might be a little bit too stark, even though I'm picking up some of the skin tones. So I'm going to probably go down my intensity just a little bit, because I went up so high in my vibrancy of, or you know, the values, that I need to kind of be careful, because I'm trying to find the nice happy medium between the RGB intensity and the value itself. Okay. You can see I'm just trying to blend. With that. Okay. So, as you can see, after you keep building these layers, you know, rinse and repeat, you know, Mr. Miyagi kind of crap. Just keep doing it until you got it. You know, you kind of get some direction that you kind of like, you might be happy with. Now, I could keep playing with this. I might kind of go to where I might want to bring in some of these veinage. Maybe pull some of this pink. And now, since I already kind of have it, I'm going to play with this, you know, meat slab kind of look. I want to marble it a little bit more and use it to blend into what I've kind of created. Okay. Now, certain areas not working, blend that back out, you know. Because it might be too much. And I could always just go back in alpha. Go to something dark. Don't be afraid to start over at swiping at something again. You know, if you're always afraid of what you might lose, then you're never going to take the chance to try. So, and it takes time. I mean, made a statement one time, it takes 21 years to go from a tit to a mirror. Meaning there's a lot of time in between to develop your art, to think about it. Don't rush it. It's, you know, art takes time. Good art takes time. And it's not something that you're kind of going to do overnight. It's a lot of art, a lot of practice. And I think that's a problem where I see a lot of people expect to be doing the same thing that people you respect that have been doing it for 20, 30, 40 years. Don't worry yourselves, and don't expect phenomenal achievements, you know, without doing any kind of the work, I guess. Okay, I'm digging this marble slab kind of thing. I'm going to kind of make sure that I'm carrying it a little bit more. So I'm going to emphasize some more of that skin. Okay. And he's almost kind of zombie-esque because I was getting more of those cool colors and stuff. I don't necessarily I want him zombie, I want him alien, but you know, who knows, maybe I might make him a little bit more. I think what I need to do is just get some more color into some of these different areas to warm them up a little bit. Let's try this. A little bit more towards the red underneath. So I'm taking a little bit even warmer, getting away from those cools, the dead flesh. So if I start bringing in more of like this warm red, it's going to make him feel a lot more alive. So I'm kind of taking that 6-day-old beef slab and I'm starting to make it a little bit more to where it's something you might want to, you're not going to worry about getting sick eating kind of thing by the color tones, you know what I mean? So I'm going to bring this up a little bit. Okay, I think that's working a little bit better. More than welcome, Yoner. Sorry if I mispronounced your name wrong. Sorry. I hope that my eyesight's not great. Okay, looking at the computers too long. Okay, I'm going to kind of bring up some of this highlights down here because I want to connect some of the color that I'm doing throughout the face. Okay, so if I don't have any this similar color tones snapping throughout the face, it's just like the same thing with the folds. I'm losing your eye. I'm not pointing towards the direction for it. This right here, I think I'm going to go darker and separate. And then I'm going to go really dark to inset that nostril. And I'm just blending back out. Sometimes you just need to kind of have something really dark to push that back in depth so you can focus on things that you want to see. Again, it's value hits, guys. If I really want, you know, you to focus on this front face by knocking that down, that the value along with the shapes are going to start pushing that back out. Don't necessarily want that right there. I didn't think it worked, but I might bring in some warm and some cool right there. And then use the highlights to separate the folds of the skin and some of the detail that I put into that character area. Like so. Okay. So how are we doing on time? Time just went away. I was doing pretty good and all of a sudden it's over. So let me go do a couple more of the highlights of the skin here. And then I'm going to probably do a real quick, I'm going to try to pose this guy real quick just to show you guys what I'm talking about. yeah, it's you think of this like a you know, when you're doing this character or any kind of characters and stuff like that, there's a lot of values will help your character design just as much as the sculpt. You know what I mean? It's the colors. It really kind of adds, and if you have, you know, just like in the human face, you have a lot of the warmth in the cheeks in certain areas and stuff like that, and the cools and stuff. It breaks up the visual interest, and that's what you kind of need to kind of carry over into your characters. You just don't just slop on one particular color and just stay to, you know, certain warmths. Everything's warm, you know what I mean? Just like if I have like a flat surface on this character, that really helps emphasize a lot of the round areas that I have on the character. So they benefit and they play off of each other. So, okay. I want to define this area just a little bit more, and then I'm going to go to pose it. Okay. I'm just blending it back real quick, guys. I'm going to go blend it back even more just by putting some color. I just wanted to define that. And I'm just taking a look at like visual hit. So, okay, it's a little bit cool to me, but I'm just going to kind of just probably call it done. Just maybe make a couple swipes of a lighter tone. Okay. All right, so let me save this, and I'm going to go ahead and just do a quick pose. Yeah, because it's 3 o'clock. Okay, so once I have this, I'm going to go ahead and just make a quick clone, just because I have that piece to pull back from. I'm going to go up into Transform, I'm sorry, Z Plugin, Transpose Master, and I'm just going to, I should, because of these levels now, like I said, I'm going to be able to go in there. I'm going to go back to my color. I'm going to use this guy. I'm just going to make a duplicate. This is just a backup in case something happens for me, guys. I kind of have a tendency to do this. I'm going to go to, just turn that off. T-pose and mesh. Okay, use T-pose. Okay, and then I'm just going to go ahead and just go to my move tool. I have a tendency to use, I'm going to turn my symmetry right now, just because I want to sit there and make sure I kind of grab. And I'm just going to go to the neck-ish. I'm just going to use my Alt, and I'm going to blend. Okay. Blend down the neck. So I'm just going to, I'm holding down Alt again. I'm going to use this as my neck bone pretty much, and I'm just going to just generally just do a subtle turn to up and right or whatever, so however you want to do it. So I'm going to turn, okay, and I'm just going to go up here a little bit. All right, so you could do a lot of quick poses like this to where you're kind of, again, if I want to make that neck a little bit more, I'm just holding down Alt and I'm just knocking it back, so I can use that to blend, like in case I want to just have the necks, the folds of the skin just kind of gently kind of come down. You don't want to be stark, so because if I start kind of doing like this, you're going to start to have that pull, okay, start to happen, one that's pretty direct. So you can try a couple different poses if you're not liking it, you know, if you want them to be down or quizzical or up. I don't know, for some reason I always have, he's looking up and he's, you know, looking to the stars or some kind of BS like that. You know, just try to think of what are your characters going to be. But as you can see right there, just that general subtle turn gives it life. It's just something that you can do for a second. It doesn't have to be a major pose. It doesn't have to do a lot. it just can give just a little bit more of interest to that character. So let's just say, okay, I'm done, you know, and then you just go back to T-pose to subtool, and then it's just going to take it from there. It's going to update through your levels. It's done. Okay, so I have my original. Okay, just that little subtle whatever. That's the asymmetry someone was asking me about too. That just gives it a little bit more of that asymmetrical look. And if you're like, okay, if I need more, you know, then I can even take it even further. It just kind of, you know, to add. But this, you know, like I said, from here, just there is subtle. Now, if you want to go to extreme, and this is what I kind of do myself, I'm just going to make a duplicate, again with the layer. I'm already there on the colors. I'm going to go back to my, so I can actually see my sculpt a little bit more. I'm just going to go back to T-pose mesh. As long as those are hidden, this is only going to take this one pose. Now, sometimes what I'll do is that I'll take a quick object, like if I really wanted to get into a pose and I just ripped the hell out of it, I just got it down to the pose and I have my final character. What I'll do is that I'll go into the T-pose mesh, I'll append whatever that is, that pose that I want to get to, okay, and then a lot of times I'll, you know, let's say if I'm getting to this pose, I'm going to go into like a red, and I'm just going to go to color, fill that object with red, okay, so that way whenever I'm taking this character to pose, I'll turn on my transparency or with, you know, without ghost. I'm able to see that a little bit better. If you're having trouble still seeing because of the background, you can always just change your document background color to kind of have that visually pop. But just make sure that whenever you are done, because you transposed, you went through and you T-posed this mesh without this object in here, just delete your whatever object you're going to use to pose to. For it's you know, your idea of what your pose is going to be, just delete out that object, okay, and then come back out of T-pose and you'll be fine, okay. If you keep it in there, it's not going to have the same vert count that you had originally, so that's why you'll have some issues, okay. So let me go ahead and make a, let me move this sucker, let me go ahead and turn on symmetry again. I'm just going to go ahead and start with the neck, but I'm going to go a little bit higher. Okay, I'm going to blend. Okay. Now, you see how this got off right here? If you ever need to get that back on, just go ahead and do that. It will reset the pivot. And you can always hold down Alt, whatever you feel comfortable with, to get that into the center. And then I'm going to do a turn. Now you see how that is such a harsh. You need to make sure that you blend, okay, and then you kind of do your subtle turns, okay, and then just keep blending, you know, count, like I'm going to do 20, whatever, and then I'm going to slightly turn and look up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you know, etc. So what you're doing is you're slowly taking that character, and you're slowly going down the neckline while blending in your character to actually start to see the folds, so you don't have any kind of stretching or a quick poly hit, you know what I mean, from where it shears off. You're kind of slowly turning this guy, okay, and you can sometimes like flip the alpha if you have to go back up, but I'm going to keep going down to where I'm kind of like, okay, he's really just slowly turning out to an object, okay. Now if I really want, as you can see right there, that head is really starting to turn. I might have to kind of bring that back, or I might have to work my way back up the neck to where I'm kind of going, okay, that was too extreme, and then just slowly work that back out. Oops. Okay. But most of the time, guys, you are going to have to resculpt, remove, repose. It's a lot. It's work. You know what I mean? So I might have to come back out here and just go, okay, and this is this is again where the asymmetry will come in. This will kind of help. And because I have a lot of those different lines, you know, I can go back in and sculpt in the fat folds a little bit more from here. You know, start reposing, start having the shift of this line kind of come through a little bit more to what you're doing, you know what I mean? So that will kind of give you your pose, because I'm turning to such a degree that it's allowing me to kind of, you know. So then I'm going to go to T-pose to sub. And there you go. Okay. So, and then tool, and then just save as, and just call it, because I got 3 of them in there. Just make sure you got, you know, you just call it posed or whatever. And just keep playing with it. But that's pretty much it. If there's no other kind of questions, I think all you guys kind of went quiet on me, so hopefully you're still watching. But you know, just keep playing with this stuff. Try the different forms. Don't worry about, you know, if it's not going in one direction, you can always do a lot of different things. What I also do, guys, is I go back to here. What I'll do is I'll bring in different objects and I'll start playing. So, which I'll probably start getting into for the next episode. I'll start to show you how you can bring in different objects. But this, where are you at? There you go. So, you know, when you have a couple different ideas of, you know, what pose is going to be, you know, from the start. You know, whenever you're going to render, if you're going to take the time, just don't have a straight on kind of view. Try to give it just a little bit. So, because right there, that's a big, that might be too much. That might just be enough, you know. But then that just gives your character a little bit more interesting angles to play with, and a little bit more of that life you're kind of bringing. And if you're ever doing something for a client or whatever, sometimes just showing them just that little subtlety of coming from, especially in games, if you're stuck to the T-pose, giving them something where they're looking at to where what the character might look like when it's moving or alive, it kind of helps them see from A to Z. And that's your job as an artist, whatever, to kind of, you know, describe what the character is like, you know, tell the story, tell everything else that's in your head to the final board. So I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for stopping by and everything. I think I'm going to call it a day. I've got to get to my day as well. But I appreciate everybody taking the time to visit. And please drop me a line at any point in time. You have my information. You can contact me through my website, bbriley.com, or my website email is up there as well, or through Grim as well. So please check us out. Thanks for looking, guys, and I'll talk to you next week. So, yes, Harry Potter. As long as it kind of reminds you of something cool, I appreciate it. So, alrighty, guys. Thanks much. Appreciate it.